So you're 4 weeks in to a new job. How's it going, Srini?
Ask me in 2 months. I was told that by my well-wisher, my wife, that everything looks good in the beginning. So right now it looks all rosy. So we shall see. We shall see.
Good, good. So I'm not going to be totally selfish and ask all the questions today. We are going to have some time for audience questions at the end. So start to think now what you want to know from Srini. So I'm excited to chat with you today about your new role and your vision for ADP's product strategy. But first, I'd really like to chat a little bit about you. So you've had a unique career journey. Maria shared a little bit about that earlier today. Starting as an engineer, you had a couple stops along the way before you were CHRO at ADP. So how has your background informed your approach for your current role as President of Product and Innovation for ADP?
I don't know where Maria is, but she did a pretty good job of doing the introduction in her part of the speech. So I would fill some gaps there. So as you said, yes, I'm from India and I have a computer science degree. There you go. 2 surprises right there. And then I came to US '94. I was coding until 2005, actually. And my entry into HR was through a product called PeopleSoft, you may have heard. Either building parts of it or implementing it for clients. And then when you are in the HR space, it's hard to escape the gravitational forces of ADP. So that's how I first came into contact with the name ADP. Then I got moved into operations world from HR tech, running payroll, benefits, leave of absence, time and attendance, compensation, recruiting, you name it.
So the full scale.
Full scale. So I got trained by the best in the operations world, employee call centers, all of that. And then suddenly I realized that, if I'm going to be in the HR space and I like technology, perhaps I should actually look at working at ADP, the biggest HR tech company. And I happened to be in New Jersey. I moved to New Jersey in 2005 for work. Then luckily I had, contacts at ADP because I've been a client of ADP for almost a decade plus. And few people introduced me to then tech leaders at ADP as well as the CHRO. And they both competed. I would like to frame it that way. And then the CHRO has won the race. And he offered me an HR strategy role. So I joined ADP in 2014. And 2 years later, I was given responsibilities to run frontline HR for a business unit. And then after 2 years, I was asked to be the CHRO in 2018. As of January 1st, I have this role. So I would say it's a unique journey. There is no doubt about that. I'm not a big believer in career pathing. That might be breaking some HR rules here, but maybe I'm an anomaly. But I'm back home, hoping that with the domain awareness that I gained in the last couple of decades with some technology exposure, I hope I can bring some changes and we can pull the world of work and HR technology forward together.
I think so. I know that you provided a lot of perspective to the global product and technology team when you were CHRO. We refer to ourselves as Client Zero, and the audience has probably heard that a couple of times. And so I'm curious now that you have the reins, what are the focus areas for your role?
Well, Client Zero, the whole concept was about, drinking your own champagne. So we have been doing that, generally speaking, very well. And it's a two-way process, right? Sometimes our HR organization, while I was there, trying to push the product, and product gives us very nice tools to implement within ADP. So it's a nice symbiotic relationship. It's working very well. And we would like to strengthen that, because why can't we use 800 experts in-house to drive the innovation agenda in the product space? So that's the concept on Client Zero. And then how does that influence my thinking as well as, what are my focus areas? My thinking is formed by closed-loop process. That's what I learned. If you reduce the number of layers between the person actually coding it and the person who is going to use that product, the better outcomes are going to come. But sometimes organization structures and all the other things that happens in big corporations make that simple task very complex. So my intent is to bring that as close as possible, along with my partner in crime, Jimmy. He's also in the room somewhere. So that's what we agreed upon and aligned. So we shall see. And then my focus area is really about balancing the basics with breakthroughs. Because I attended a few client calls since I took this role, and it pains me that we're still not there in certain instances in helping organizations, right? So seamless data flows, how do we do that? How do we eliminate data duplication, duplication of entry from HR system to payroll system, or driving the payroll and delivering outbound interfaces? So basic stuff, I think there is opportunity for us. But at the same time, we can't be bogged down by the day-to-day as well. We always have to keep our eye on the horizon in terms of where to push the envelope. So it's a balancing act. That's what I would like to go forward. So at the end of the day, delivering better practitioner experience, all of you, and better employee experience for all of your organizations. Because honestly, I believe that, here is another controversial statement, I believe payroll is the axis upon which the world of work rotates. There you go, I said it. Everybody else outside the payroll can hate me for saying that, but honestly, that's the truth. And we're all here driving that forward. So I would like to see how fast we can move that wheel forward.
I'd like to go faster. I think that's a good idea.
Awesome.
So one of the things that I think will help us move faster, and that we heard a little about earlier today, is our data-driven approach. And data-driven design is a key pillar to ADP's innovation approach. But what does that really mean for the folks that are on your team, and how they approach innovation as they build and design our products?
So, we talked about data. Maria talked about it. Virginia talked about it. Data is middle name. We already said that. To me, data is three types. There is individual data, and organizations' data, and then the macro data, which is the combination of all other organizations. We have all of that. How do we use it in the innovation cycle is really what I call it discover phase. What's the problem we're trying to solve, and what is the opportunity out there? What's the size of it? Data could help us size a lot of these things and how fast we want to go. And then, here is another data point. We get 15 million calls across ADP from million clients we have per year. And we know what are the topics, where we could be more helpful, and what are the other product opportunities we could give to the market. So that's one channel we could use that in enhancing our products. Talking to all of you in focus groups or things like this, in user groups, that's another channel. And we have, obviously it's a competitive world out there. Keeping an eye on what competition is doing, that's also a source of an input to the innovation agenda. So all of that, to me, forms the discovery process. And then you take that, prioritize it, and invest dollars in developing the solution, right? And then you go and deliver the solution to the market. So data plays obviously a key role at the front end of the funnel, and after you develop it, to testing it, see how users are liking it, what they don't like, what they like, and then delivering it to the market and see how that is being adopted and used too.
Definitely that key piece of what you're sharing there in terms of that data is also tying very much to our client-centric approach. And I know a lot of global businesses that are in the audience today have come to ADP with a multi-vendor HCM technology ecosystem. And so for clients that are working with other vendors for core HR or talent, but using ADP Global Payroll, what, in your view, is the role that ADP plays in the broader employee experience?
Look, I would love to be the sole partner for all of your organizations in an ideal world. But in reality, it's an open ecosystem, and it's a choice. And we would love to work with, if you're happy with the partner that you already have, and we have an opportunity to co-solve a problem at your organization, we'd love to do that. And so I don't think we draw any boxes around us in terms of how we help the clients out there. So there are no fast and hard rules there. We're open to work with anybody as long as it makes sense for you and us. And we have a lot of examples there. So in fact, I do think that going back to the data story, we have a lot of data. For example, in the US alone, team told me that 80 million W-2s, we have 130 million working population in the US, right? So we have data, but there are others who have some complementary data. So how do we bring data sets that are complementary in nature, create a solution or a product, and give it to all of you out there? So as a philosophy, we don't want to be the only solution provider to you. If it makes sense to partner on all aspects with others and bring it to you, that you all have HR systems where you may use us for payroll, or you may use somebody else for something else. So I don't see it. But I do know for sure that the seamless data flows, because you have different partners you work with, that has to be a priority all across the ecosystem for us, for others, and in your internal IT organizations as well. I do see that as an opportunity for us.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that that's a great opportunity for us. One of the things that I'm a little curious to ask you about is around flexible work. For many businesses, flexible work remains a key piece of their talent recruitment and talent retention strategy. And so how do you see technology helping to address the complexities that flexible work brings to HR and, importantly, payroll processes?
Yeah. As a CHRO at ADP, during the COVID time, we went through that. We had, prior to COVID, close to 20% of our population with flex schedule. Obviously, March 2020, everybody went home, and then you dealt with what that means. I don't think we are going back to the 5 days in a physical space. I don't think so. I could be wrong, what I know. But as we have right now within ADP, we have 3-2 model, 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. And we know instances where our associates have told us that 3 days in France and 2 days in Switzerland, okay? So what are the implications from tax standpoint? Just now, I saw 15 minutes ago, New York State governor said that she wants to raise $1.3 billion to help the state funding, mainly through the payroll taxes. So guess what? The governments are looking for payroll taxes. So when you have flexible model like this, everybody's counting their share of the payroll tax dollars. So there is compliance risk from a payroll standpoint. Flexibility model presents a bigger problem. And we have some expertise to help all of you and others. That's one. Second one is, it's the human aspect, fairness principle. As a team leader, if I have 10 people and half of them following the organization's rules, 3-2, and you have the others that are not following, you actually have people that following the rule probably feeling that, hey, how come I'm following the rules and others are not, it's not fair. That could create retention challenges.
Absolutely.
So how team leaders are equipped to handle that, and how, even though we say 3-2 is the framework, and is there a freedom within that framework for the team leaders to empower them to make the individual choices? So how do HR systems or listening posts, such as what we have at ADP, some of you may have it, called Standout. Marcus is sitting right in front of me, so I have to tip my hat. How do we have the listening post in a proactive way? It's also a data that tells the team leaders, hey, here is the yellow sign or red sign happening from a chemistry standpoint as a result of the policy that we have implemented. So those are all the things for us to think about it as we move forward.
So in our conversation, we had a chat leading up to our fireside chat today, and one of the things that you laid out for me on your whiteboard, actually, in the office, was how you see always designing for people reflected in our products. And I think that would be a great concept to share with the audience today.
Thank you. I will never draw anything again on my whiteboard. This is something that I truly believe in. That many of the HR tech vendors, we play on the transaction layer. And that's obviously very, very important. As you see on the behind me, you have 3 layers there. Transaction layer, which is obviously the foundation, right? And then I believe the value add, as you traverse that pyramid from the bottom to the top, comes from the data layer, and then what I call it human experience at the top of the pyramid. So let me explain what I mean by this. I like that music. The transaction layer, where all of us, right, you pick any company, we try to deliver the best transaction for you and for your employees. But it's very hard to differentiate at that level because it is so commoditized. In my humble opinion, we have our asset, which is the data. And what we do in terms of solutions and products dealing with people, we're not supply chain providers or procurement providers, right? We are in the business of people, HR systems. So when you do a transaction in HR, you are actually dealing with people. Every transaction that deals with a person has an emotional layer to it. You hire somebody, that's a positive thing. You have to let go of somebody, that's a negative thing. Somebody has a new manager, that's a good thing, potentially. So you can actually draw an emotional string from every single transaction. Payroll got processed, somebody got paid, that's a good thing. Somebody increased their retirement contribution, that's a good thing. So my hypothesis is, when you do the transaction, if we could embed a data insight that makes you feel smart. Let me give you an example. Let's take what's most commonly used HR transaction, hire transaction, right? Okay, I am the HR person. I'm hiring Ted. I'm keying that in right now. And the ADP system tells me at that time a couple of things. Number one, hey, I just noticed that Ted's annual salary, you're keying it in, is in the bottom 25th percentile for that job in that geolocation, which means statistically you have only 9 months to keep this guy. I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And it also tells me that Marcus has applied to this job and he wasn't selected. And Marcus also has applied 3 other jobs in the last 6 months. He wasn't selected for those jobs either. He's overqualified, obviously. I didn't know that as an HR person, but HR systems should be telling me that. We can do that right now. That makes me, an HR practitioner, feel smart. Okay, what I'm going to do with that? Let me pull that string much further. Wouldn't it be nice that HR system at this minute tells Srini, the HR person, to say, hey, would you like me to send an email on your behalf to Marcus to acknowledge that he's having some challenges finding a role within the company? Yes, as a person, I want to know that. First of all, I didn't know that. Second of all, you're helping me make that connection in an easier way rather than me looking up Marcus, sending an email. We should be doing that. And that's what I call it human experience. The transaction, pulling the data string, making me feel smart, the HR practitioner, then also making me feel good about reaching out to Marcus with that new knowledge that I know. We're connecting with Marcus, helping him find a role within this company. When every single people transaction can deliver that human experience to the stakeholder that is impacted by the transaction, then I can proudly stand on this stage or any stage you give me to say, we always design for people, call us ADP. That's the product vision. It's not AI, it's not ML. Even I can code that if, then, else construct. I mean, of course, my team tells me there's a lot of data we have to gather, clean it, and provide that insight. But that's all detail, right? But we have to aspire ourselves to pull ourselves out of the transaction layer and deliver what people expect us to deliver, which is a better human experience. And that's the battle I want to fight. I may win, I may lose, but it's worth the battle to fight for. So I hope you give me that opportunity to deliver some of those promises as we move forward.
I think it's such an important concept for us. We talk about data so much, but that there is a person and an interaction behind every piece of data that we have, I think is really inspiring for our team as we think about innovation. So my last question before I open it up to the floor. So they say hindsight is always 20/20. As you look at the year ahead, what lessons from the previous year do you hope stay with us?
Listen and deliver value. Virginia's slide was beautiful. It's so simple, right? She talks 3 things. One was save time, minimize risk, add value. If ADP delivers those 3 things, game over. That's all we're looking for. That's what we want to do. It's hard, I know that, but I can give you a promise, as long as I'm in this seat, we'll try to do that. That will be our North Star, to add value to you and your employees. We'll try our best. We're not perfect, but it's a journey. There is no, just like life, there is no destination. It's only a journey.